Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Darren Smith along with Steve Walls. We welcome to the pregame cheat sheet. We are live from inside the press box at Arrowhead Stadium, where the Chiefs will be taking on the Los Angeles Chargers in just a little bit, just under an hour before kickoff. Steve, first of all, happy Sunday to you. Happy Chiefs Sunday to you.
That's right.
What's your initial thoughts on this matchup between the 5-1 Chiefs and the 2-3 Chargers?
Man, this is kind of one of those games, on Thanksgiving where you get, you start snacking when the food is cooking.
Snacking.
Right? This is just like a snack before you go on to play Denver and then go on to play Miami.
Well, okay, that's
it's kind of like you take a little nibbles of the games, and it's like, man, just give me the full course.
I'm telling you something funny right quick. So I'm on the Cleveland Browns space this morning just because I got some folks up there that I like, and I just listen to their stuff. And so they were asking me, is it true? If things would have worked out last week, that the Chiefs would have locked up the division. I was like, I don't know how you lock up the division after 6 weeks. I said, I don't know that to be true. I said, I don't believe that's true because they haven't played, the other
played
team.
Raiders, and they haven't played Chargers.
Yeah, so they've only played one game, so I don't know how you can lock up the division after one game.
Exactly.
Chiefs are good, but they're not that good
because they could go on and lose 4 games in the division, and then you'd be last place.
Man, but that being the case. Chiefs had a 10-day layoff, more or less, after their last one against the with the Denver Broncos on the Thursday night football game. Chargers coming in on the short week. They hosted the Dallas Cowboys Monday night, got beat 20-17. So it's on a short week. What are you expecting from them off the bat, knowing that they're in a precarious position where if they lose, they fall to 2-4. They fall further back against the Chiefs in the division, where their season could be on the line early on.
Yeah, man, and I saw Mike Patton post. I wonder how Staley is going to mess up this week. I think that's just it. When we talk about Justin Herbert, and to me, he's a solid quarterback. You think about his offensive weapons. Mike Williams got hurt, right? That was unfortunate. Then you have Keenan Allen, who Keenan Allen always seems to have great games against the Chiefs. And you remember back when I think it was 2018, I think. Maybe it was 19, when Keenan Allen was going off in the first half and then ended up tearing his ACL. But he's always seemed to have those good games here in Arrowhead. But this is a game you expect the Chargers to come out and play hard. I mean, it's a division game, no matter what the record is. We hear, Coach Reed talk about, even though the record says that, but it's still a division game. They're going to come out here playing hard, and the Chiefs always have a target on their back.
Well, and you have to. I mean, remember, we thought that they would blow the doors off of Denver, and then go and then being much closer than they had any business being. This game, though, in the matches that Patrick has had with Justin Herbert, I think he's 4-1 against Herbert. The games have always come down to one-possession ball games, or at least the score has been a one-possession game.
Yeah.
I don't expect anything different. I don't expect. I think from our show we did Monday, I think he kind of had a little bit bigger, and I think I had a one-possession game, even though the Chiefs are 5.5-point favorites. I'm worried about them covering that.
I think I had 31-17, if I'm not mistaken.
31-14. That's been your score for some reason. Eventually it's going to hit with somebody. But in all seriousness, look, you talk about Herbert. Herbert, to me, he's a good quarterback, but I don't feel him to be elite. I've gone back and forth with Sean Merriman, with Chargers fans left and right, and I try to say respectfully that there are levels to this, and that because you can't just beget somebody a certain status and they haven't earned it. Remember the whole Stephen A. Smith thing with the NBA players, where he would call somebody great and all these elite type players, and then he have Hall of Famers come back like, hey bro, they got to earn this stuff. Like, they got to win championships, they got to do MVP, they got to do some stuff before just bestowing elite status or Hall of Fame status on these players. And so he is literally an average quarterback record-wise, where he's 27-27. He's lost the only playoff game that he's played in when he had a 27-point lead, and they found a way to lose it. And you blame it on Staley, but he was still quarterback where he could have continued to add points to the board. And so he's a good quarterback, but I don't see him. And I think one of the drawbacks from him is that he's in the same division with Patrick Mahomes. Because you think about it, when Phillip Rivers was in this division, he had well, not John Elway, but you had John Elway for a little bit, but you had Peyton Manning and you had some of these other quarterbacks where it was hard for him to get over the hump because of the quarterbacks that were either in this conference or in this division. And so that's one of the things that he's going to have to deal with, because as long as Mahomes is there, you still got, to an extent, Russell Wilson. I mean, it's going to be hard for him to really climb or get to that next level as long as Mahomes is in this division.
And I get it. I mean, he hasn't won the prototypical big game, right?
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, that playoff loss, his only playoff within his short career so far. But he has to go out and win a big game if he wants to get to that elite tier. I mean, we see the Josh Allens, the Joe Burrows, they've won the big game. Now, however, Josh Allen has lost, a bunch of games, but he still, put himself in that elitist category. Because I think if you're comparing Josh Allen and Justin Herbert, if you remember, Josh Allen's career didn't start off peaches and cream.
Well, like because he didn't have Stephon Diggs.
Yeah,
until he got Diggs, he was.
And once he was
a bad
Diggs,
quarterback,
he was able to start flinging the ball, take more chances, and I think that's what Justin Herbert, to me, is kind of that early Josh Allen.
So the one thing I'll give Herbert is the fact that yes, some of the players has been injury prone, but he still had an all-star and Austin Eckler back there. And look, and one of the things that goes unnoticed, but they finally talked about it Monday night, was the fact that in the fourth quarter games, he's had 13 turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean, when the game's on the line, he's had 13. Again, that's might be the reason why you got a 500 record, but you can't have that many turnovers. And he's been turnover prone along with what we're seeing today with Josh Allen and some of these other quarterbacks. And so, they can beat the Chiefs. The one time they did beat the Chiefs was in Week 17, but of course, Mahomes was not in that game. That was the game that they I'm trying to think.
No, they beat him before that.
No. I'm sorry. No, that was Week 17 here when the Chiefs were going on to play in the Super Bowl for the second back-to-back years.
No, they beat them. They beat them before that when Patrick Mahomes was saying what was it, 2 years ago when Patrick Mahomes he was at the golf course over the summer and somebody said something and they were I believe it when I see it, and he comes in here and he shows them. Remember that? Yeah. You can't forget that.
I did actually. I kind of Will Smith didn't bite that out. Okay, because I think I lost some money on that game, so that's probably why. But going into this game, again, kickoff is at 3:25. You can watch the game on CBS. Steve, let's look at this for the Chiefs. Pretty busy week for them. Mm-hmm. They traded to get McCole Hardman, bring wide receiver McCole Hardman back. He will be playing in today's game, as well as Charles Ohamnu, who is on the active roster today. Missed the first 6 games after being suspended by the NFL. What are those two additions to this team going to mean for the Chiefs?
I think, just starting with McCole, I feel like he's going to help this wide receiver group.
Re-energize, you think?
I would say so, because if the wide receiving group wasn't struggling, there'd be no reason to go back and get McCole. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense, right? Like, you still have Kadarius Toney, you have MVS, who's making a lot of money, right? Like, and then you have some other guys where Sky Moore, and then you have Rashee Rice and those receivers. But I feel like he's going to create something where it's kind of like an osmosis type thing, where you bring in a guy who, let's not forget, he's a 2-time champion. Yeah. Right. He's been here. He knows. And just hearing him talk earlier this week, where he felt himself, being arrogant. And he said, things happen for a reason, and God put him in a spot where he needed to figure some things out. And I think now
he got humbled.
He did. And now I think he's learned how to be a professional. He goes to a different organization in New York City where the media spotlight is there, especially with Aaron Rodgers, right? Ooh. So I feel like he is going to bring a lot of depth to this team, especially you don't have – I want to look at the number where how many balls thrown, deep passes Mahomes has had over his career compared to this year.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that there's been many. I mean, you see the Justin Watson, some of those to me seem kind of forced, where you run the same play 3 times in a row and then you get 1 out of 3. But I feel like he's going to be able to do some different things. I know they're going to probably sprinkle him in the punt return. You're going to get where he's going to be able to do some end around things, and it's going to make the defense play more. Going to make them think a little bit.
I'll say this. I know the Chiefs haven't updated their deal here. Let's see whether or not he was on here. He's not out here just yet. So probably when they come back and play a month from now against the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, for me, I think his addition to the wide receiver room as well. I mean, he knows everyone, obviously, except for those that have just come in like Rashid. But he's got time to figure that part out. But I think what he brings is not only experience, but if he if they get him going early, I think it'll bring a spark, it'll bring an energy. One, gotta remember, you and I told people this all week, that one of our biggest regrets when we were in New York was that we didn't get a chance to stop by and talk to McCole after the game. We were so, I think, with everything that was going on, Sunday Night Football and stuff like that, we just did not just get a chance to. So, and we didn't really think about it till it was too late,
right,
and
right.
so that was our fault on that. But I just think, like you said, being in that market, knowing that they had a rookie, I think that kind of came up during the Hard Knocks television,
Show on HBO.
Yeah, show on HBO, but also during the preseason stuff like that, where he didn't really get a chance to show what he can do from Kansas City.
Yeah.
And because he didn't get a lot of playing time, it was like you signed this guy to a $4 million to $6 million deal to do what? Mm-hmm. And then when Robert Saleh was asked about him, he was like, he kind of gave the Deion Sanders answer, go ask him why he's not playing. And so the fact that he's out of that situation and back in Kansas City, like you said, I don't know if it's a situation where, if he says he was a little arrogant, that's fine. But I know the Chiefs didn't offer him a contract when he was, people talking about, well, they shouldn't have let him go. Well, no, they didn't want him because they didn't offer him a contract.
Well, they knew he was going. In that situation, a guy wants to get paid, right? I think they did the best thing that they could do for him, whereas allow him to go and get money.
And see what the market will dictate for. And look, his money's guaranteed for this year, so either the Chiefs just paying the rest of it, which isn't that much,
right?
Or
I think it's like $800,000.
Yeah,
I had to pay him.
Yeah. So again, I mean, for the number of games and what he can bring, to me, it's priceless. And again, you didn't break the bank and having to re-sign him or anything like that. And then Charles O'Hobbs, what's he bring to this team?
I was trying to think about that a little bit last week, and especially because the defense is playing good. Right? This is just kind of icing on the cake. And he's, like I said, he's going to bring you depth as well, just like McCole. There's going to be no drop-off, if that makes sense. I mean, like last year, you knew what your first team was, and then you sprinkle in Colin Saunders, who played phenomenal last year, which got him a new deal.
And he played phenomenal the other night, too.
He did.
Saw Tyrann Matthews, too.
And so, I think he's going to give you that depth, whereas is he going to play inside or is he going to play outside? Like that's the thing that I'm curious to see, and I'm sure we'll get to see it today.
Well, and I'm not familiar with his game, so I'm gonna have to do that. I forget which meme it is where it's like, man, I didn't know your game. I apologize, but
no, he's 6'6". I mean, he putting 6'6" with 6'6" on that defensive line. I mean, they put their hands up, and that's gonna be tough even for a guy like Justin Herbert to throw the ball through.
Which is crazy because you think about the draft pick that the Chiefs did a couple years ago with the kid from Florida State, and that's what they were hoping he was going to become. Mm-hmm. I think the way he plays, Chris Jones, like I said, Mike Daniels, the way that defensive line has been playing, and the way Spags been calling the games, or whatever, I'm interested to see where they don't have to just line up a certain position. They could probably do the whole Cleveland Browns thing where they're just moving around or whatever, and just see where they want to line up against the weakest opponent or whatever and go after them. So I'm definitely looking to see what they do. Now, the Chargers, their offensive line has been banged up most of the year, and so this could be a good game, and people talked about him getting double-digit sacks. Yeah. Well, you got 11 games left, so it'll start today. Of course. If you're going to do it. And Chris Jones has had a sack in every game this far since he's played. So I'm expecting big things from this defense. I'm expecting big things from Charles. I presume he's probably going to be on a snap on a pitch
Oh, of
count,
course.
more or less. But but if he's kept himself in the shape, kind of like Chris Jones, I think they'll try to at least on passing downs try to see what they can get from him.
Yeah, I agree, but you got to remember, being in shape is not football shape, right? Like you can be in as much shape as you want, but until the bullets start flying and you're out there, you're really not in that kind of shape. So I think it'll take him, a couple games. Whereas Chris Jones, he was just thrown into the mix and just
yeah. Well, Chris don't want you because he's got the contract that we got to deal with. Again, kickoff is at 3:25. A little bit over 40 minutes away. Steve, I believe, if the rumors are true, Taylor Swift is supposed to be at this game again today. So, yeah, I guess she's been on every network except for CBS, so now they want her. Now they want to hear. But today's National Tight End Day. I don't know where all these holidays are coming from.
Yeah, that's been a thing.
Okay, so what are you expecting from Travis Kelce in today's game?
He always has good games against the Chargers.
That matchup with he and Darren James, that's what we want to watch.
Yeah, and a lot of those games have been in LA though. Like always, been,
yeah. Hold on, and it comes overtime. The last play, he comes.
But Travis is gonna be Travis. I mean, he come hell or high water, the ball's coming to him.
Yep.
So I mean, you think about just the connection that he and Mahomes has. And someone asked earlier this week about the freedom to where when did Travis get that freedom from Andy Reid to kind of create his own way. And Andy talked about he has a little bit more freedom than the wide receivers, which makes sense because I know my question, and we talked about it last week, was like, why don't the wide receivers get open? Like, why aren't they able to do the I'm gonna run my route, then break off and do something else just to get to create space. And Andy talked about him just being in the middle of the field is always just more space than being on close to the sideline, and that's why he's able to kind of create that. But I feel like Travis is going to have a Travis type game. I would say between 70, 80 yards, receiving, probably a touchdown, and that'd be a solid day for Travis.
Looking at it from the offensive side of the ball for Kansas City, again, they've done much better as it relates to running the football a lot lately. I'm expecting another. It's funny because these teams have played each other tight, and it's been a fairly high-scoring game. Between 27 to 35 points, depending on where they're at and how the game is flowing.
Yeah.
But the Chiefs haven't really put a lot of points on the board outside of the 42 points that they put up against Chicago. Now. A lot of times, we've been looking at Patrick making the connection with the wide receivers and stuff like that. Is this a game where everything starts to click once again? Because I know I kind of ask this week in and week out, and we think it's going to happen because we kind of predict a high score, and then we end up getting a 20-17 or 21-9 type of ball game. So, what are you expecting offensively for Kansas City to put out today against the Chargers?
I mean, you want them to be. I mean, the Chargers defense isn't last year, right? Like I said, beginning of the season when I was like, the Chargers defense is better than the Chiefs offense. This was the beginning of last year, and you look at them this year, and I mean I want to say they're middle of the road, around 17, I think, ranked defense. So you are. If this is a day that they're able to get something going, the connection between Mahomes and the wide receivers, this is going to be one of those days.
Okay, I got two coaches I get to cash in. Okay, all right, Detroit, and Ravens. Oh man, about time something here around here. So one of the things I do want to ask you, and it's funny because we haven't really had a chance to really talk about it, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
The play of the offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, we really haven't talked about Jawan Taylor and some,
And that's a good thing. You don't want your name if it's not called, you're good.
And look, and for the life of me, everybody's always talked about Donovan Smith like he's terrible. I'm like, I've never heard his name called for real in the ball game. We've heard about Jawan, but how do you feel like this offensive line has played over the last couple of weeks?
I mean, they're doing what you ask them to do. I mean, they're creating lanes when you need a hole for the running back to get through. I mean, they are playing well-rounded football. They're doing as good as you can, but you got to remember the red zone is I blame a little bit of that on the offensive line too. I mean, if I'm the offensive line, I'm like, hey, why can't we just run the ball? I mean, we're going to help you get 2 yards. Let's just run the ball and make something happen. So I'd like to see them do better because it's the whole offense in the red zone has just been not good. So I that grade for just the offensive line, I put them in that too. They got to be held accountable.
The running backs, again, we talked about how they've been doing throughout the season. I think about it because I know you and I, and others, every time we see Clark in the ball game when he gets the ball, and what are you seeing from the running backs with this team so far?
Here's the thing about Clyde. I mean, I'm not saying that he's not a good running back. He just needs more reps, and because he's not an Isaiah Pacheco where he's going to just hit the ground running.
Well, he physically can't.
Yeah, he needs those. I would say he needs 7 to 10 carries before he even gets into a flow of a game. Once he gets to get in that rhythm, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. He's not going to give you that if that makes sense, and that's why I feel like it didn't work out. For him to be RB1. I mean, what are you saying from him?
Well, the thing that worries me or that bothers me is that when he comes into the game, it's kind of a telltale sign for what the Chiefs are going to do. Because even if he runs the football, he's not going to get more than a yard because he can't push the line forward. And when the line opens, he doesn't break through fast enough. And then if he tries to, it closes. And and he doesn't have enough wiggle room to get out. I like him obviously better in the passing game, but you can't really put him out there because. I mean, you're hoping that that Mahomes has enough time to throw the football, and if he doesn't, and he throws him to Clyde can tackle it in the backfield. So I'm not sure what his place might be going further, but obviously he'll still be on the team. I don't think he's going to get traded or anything like that by Tuesday. But but that's my biggest concern is his contribution, what he's able to contribute to this team right now, because there's not a whole lot that he can really add to the offense that he's done or hasn't done so far.
I agree, and I think he and Jerick McKinnon are splitting minutes. Or splitting, so.
And that's a problem too, because
I mean, and Jerick, when he comes into the game, he's just going to do pass pro and break out for a little short game, possibly 2-3 yard short pass. So they've been playing well. I can't even say that the running back crew, because I mean it really is a committee. We know that Pacheco is playing the number one running back, but it's still by committee.
I want to look at the defense side of football now. This is part that I've been enjoying so much this season, where I get to say I told you so to a lot of people because I said that Steve Spagnuolo would be the MVP the way he's been shining with this defense, man. And I had people ask me, man, like I said this morning, they were asking me, about our defense and like, oh, your cornerbacks are getting I said, well, we have the best corners in the league, and they were like, well, no, we got to be clear. I said, no, hold on now, I got the number one defense. I give you that. We got the number one corners. Trent rated number one, I think, by PFF, but the work that L'Jarius Sneed has been doing on these number one, and that to me, I hate to kind of get into the whole X factor because that's kind of where I'm going with this. So I'm gonna tell you my X factor now, so don't just tell it.
Yeah.
But I think the X factor defensively for the Chiefs, it's going to be L'Jarius Sneed versus Keenan Allen. Because we've talked about these matchups, man, where he's getting the number one receiver, and L'Jarius has been up for the task. I mean, we saw. What city was it that we were in? I'm thinking about the road trips that we had so far this season, but he has been,
You got Minnesota. You got
Minnesota. The Minnesota game where he was physical with Justin Jefferson, essentially put him out the game. I'm looking forward to see that matchup because if he's successful in that matchup, to me, it's going to be real hard for the Chargers to win this game today because that's the guy that Justin has to go to, especially down deep or whatever, to try to get big plays. Now you got Jordan Palmer, the draft pick from last year, that's on the team that could potentially do some stuff. But that's for me. That's where my eyes, that's where my money, that's where for me my matchup is today. The X factor defensively for the Chiefs, because if he can make a dent into Keenan Allen's production, that's going to pay dividends for the Chiefs today.
I like that pick. I really do that, and that was going to be mine actually. Because you look at this test this is the first real test that they'll have, right? Like this is the first real where you're going to have a mobile quarterback. You're going to have some good receivers where they may have to, if the defensive line doesn't get to Justin Herbert, they may have to guard for a little bit, until they and make some plays. So I think this is going to be the first real test of these cornerbacks to we'll be able to see if they're, the real deal or not. But if you think about my X factor in today's game, I would, or on the defensive side of the ball, I'm still going to say the defensive line, because you got to get out to Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
We'll see exactly how good Charles Minihue is. We'll see how good this defensive line is as a whole. And if I'm a betting man and it's 1.5 sacks, I think, what is that, 1.5 sacks on Justin Herbert today? Over under?
I didn't check that out, but
I take the over.
Yeah, I take the over on that as well, because I think Chris Jones gets another sack today.
Yeah.
But now this is what I will say when it comes to this, is that looking at it offensively for the Chiefs, my X factor is going to be those tackles, because you got Joey Bosa and you got Khalil Mack. Now Mack, I think he had a sack last week against the Cowboys, but 2 weeks ago against the Raiders, he had 6 sacks. But still, we were in New York. We were looking at it. We was like, damn, this dude. But 6 sacks. Well, don't
got
forget.
An asterisk by it.
Hold on, Derek Thomas did it against the Seattle Seahawks, and Dave Craig was an immobile quarterback. So,
yeah, you got that.
So we can put an asterisk next to that too.
No, you can't. He's great.
Hold on, Khalil Mack was Defensive Player of the Year now. So was Derek Thomas. He was as well. So I ain't gonna let you disrespect Khalil like that. But I said it to say that again, if there's a game that we might have some trepidation on with the tackle play, it could be today. And so again, if they can weather that storm, because Bosa's been kind of quiet this season, which and I know he's been coming off an injury, but that's to his credit, he's still been going strong. But if but what you're getting with Mac, and so if he tries to switch sides or they do whatever, I think if they can do that, if they can withstand that, again, you give Mahomes all the time in the world that he needs. If you get those two, you keep those two away from him, sky's the limit for the Chiefs today.
I would say wide receivers are my X factor, just because you at some point there has to be a caution point, right? Like, is it week 7? Is it week 8? It's like where they're not clicking yet. It's like, come on, what week is it going to be? Because and we always hear them talk about, they just need time. They need time to come together. They need
How
time.
much time do you need?
That's my point. So it's at some point you gotta say, hey, to hell with these wide receivers. We're going to go figure something else out, or it's going to have to happen today.
But now let me ask you this. Let me turn this around on you. I'm watching Sunday Countdown, and they talked about how, or the rumor that Patrick is unhappy with his wide receiver play. Now, because you've been in the press conference with me, I've pressed Mahomes, I've pressed Andy about this connection with these wide receivers. They make it sound like everything is hunky dory now. So for them, I'm saying, but for them to be making decisions, because like I've gone and I've asked MVS and others like, what's going on with this connection stuff, and I know for a fact I ain't crazy. And so if the NFL Network or ESPN is reporting this stuff, I know there's obviously some fire, some smoke to that fire that I kind of I've been checking on since the season started, because just like you, last year they had this problem, especially with Mahomes and MVS. Like, they couldn't make a connection to save their life, and it wasn't until the AFC Championship game, not better like than never, when he had, that was his best game as a Chief. But you would think all last year, all off season, they're going down to Texas, they're doing whatever. How, especially going into year number 2, are you and each receiver not on the same page? It could be a rhetorical question, but that's my question.
Yeah. I get it, and that's why I want them to be my X factor, because it's like, y'all got to start clicking at some point.
Well, and you have to, because even if it ain't today, and granted you got Denver next week, you better put something together before you get to Frankfurt.
And what's the point? Is there a point of no return? Right? Like, we either got to make a decision now. We've got to cut our losses with MVS. We've got to cut our losses with whoever else it is
by Tuesday.
Yeah, so you got to figure it out. And I still feel like they're going to bring in another wide receiver. I don't know who. I don't know from where, but they're going to bring in another wide receiver, just because they're just not getting it done. Like, you see all these other teams. I mean, you see the G.E.H.A chases, and I know, don't get me wrong. I know that they're top. It's levels to this, right?
Yeah,
So they're top tier. I mean, even some of these other lower tier teams, the wide receiver that they want to target, they're going to target them. Like whether it's 4 targets, 5 to whatever. And I get it. I know they always talk about, well, there's going to be a different person every week. Why? Why does it need to be that way? Especially if you don't have that. I mean, I can see when you have the Juju, when you have McCall, and you have to sprinkle it around, right? Like you don't have a number one, and of course Kelsey's going to get his. He's still the number one in my book, but I just feel like you've got to figure it out, and today is going to have to be that day.
Yeah, I mean, and look, and you've got a team that's pretty much backed up against the wall. And so, only thing they can do is go forward. And so, this is a game that they it's a must-win game for them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, now, the good thing about Kansas City is that they're in the number 1 seed position right now.
Mm-hmm.
They know that they need to win to stay ahead of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing what's going to happen tonight or whatever. So you want to try to remove all doubt. Don't put yourself in a situation. So it's going to be imperative that they start off hot, start off fast, so they don't put themselves in a bad position. But see, before we get out of here, let me get your final thoughts on this game. Who you think is going to win? What's the final score? In your opinion?
I got Chiefs. I think it'll be much closer than I said earlier this week. But I think it may be a field goal game, man. I really do. I think you think about
what position is
24-20, possibly something like that.
A little low, but
yeah. I think it'll be 24-20 field goal game. And I mean, I got the Chiefs winning, of course. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit closer than expected.
Okay. This is a team that you said was split with the Chiefs, so if they got them winning, you got them winning here. Then in LA.
No, I said LA. I said they were going to lose LA. We put them last game of the season.
I know.
New Year. Well, is it not New Year's Day?
The 7th.
It's okay.
7th. I've got Chiefs winning this game. I've got it. I think I had it 31-24. I'm still going to give them that window. I still think it becomes a thing where the Chiefs are leading 31-24. Mm-hmm. Herbert tries to come back, and the defense makes a big play. Okay. I just think that it kind of carries on what's been going on with his career thus far, and so.
But he's not. That is going to always happen. Like at some point,
no, I get
you're
that.
You're going to be able to flip it and turn it around.
Well, it might be against another team.
Okay. I just don't want you expecting them to be able to be close, and then Chiefs get up and they marches down the field and scores a walk off.
3.5 regardless.
Okay.
So even if the Chiefs lose by field goal, I'm still winning.
Okay.
But be that as it may, I do have the Chiefs winning this game. You got the Chiefs winning. We do want to remind everyone that tomorrow night from 6:30 to 7:30, please come join us, myself, Steve Walls, DJ Q, and Sean Tyler at Chicken and Pickle in North Kansas City as we, recap today's game. We'll preview next week's game against the Denver Broncos. Want to come out, have some burgers with us, come have some football talk with us, come join us.
Wings are good.
The wings are great, actually. Wings are really good. Steve, before we get out of here, you want to thank your sponsors?
Yeah, thank you to Dealers on the Road. So remember, you can go out there and check them out. Like wintertime's coming, get your fall gear in store. Holidays are coming up, So just go out there and check them out. Talk to Heather or Jeff. That'd be Dillard's inside of Zona Rosa.
And we want to thank G.E.H.A Barbecue, of course, for our sponsors as well. And I want to thank Todd's Clothiers and Tailored Suits. Gets me game day fit each and every week. He's located 2 locations, one at War Parkway Mall, the other off of 20th and Broadway here in Kansas City, Missouri. Open up a 3rd location in just a little bit of time, and I'll let you know when that gets announced. But I want to thank him as always, and thank the people out there that gets us together, because sometimes I'd be haphazard. They just like, Darren, come on in. So I want to thank him. I also got to thank my guy Bet as well for making sure everything is fit according to the dimensions. Steve, as always, of course, you can follow us on social media at Steve Walls KC, at Darren Smith WHB. Follow us on the social media platforms. We'll be back post-game after today's game. We'll bring you post-game coverage of Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and anyone else at the press box or during the press conference. And then, of course, we'll talk to you from the field post-game afterwards to wrap up today's game before we do it officially at the Red Hour tomorrow night. So for Steve Walls, I'm Darren Smith. Thank you so very much. Go Chiefs. Remember, kickoff is at 3:25 on CBS.
Football fans, you can't spell gate without Gates, and great tailgates start with Gates sauces and seasonings. Named synonymous with mouth-watering tailgates. When you make your list of tailgate essentials, add Gates sauces and seasonings to that list. Spice up your tailgate experience with that unmistakable great taste. Available in 4 tantalizing flavors. Classic, sweet and mild, mild and hot. Find it at your local grocer, and if you don't see it, ask for it. Visit GatesBarbecue.com to purchase any of the great sauces and seasonings. Great tailgates start with Gates.